Okay, this is the third part of an interview with Marylin Smith by Robert Portman and Louise Norman. I'm just going to spend about 10 more minutes talking about the memories she has from growing up in the mining community and also her father who worked in the mining industry. So we talked a bit previously about your father being in mining unions and about how the conditions were in mining. Do you remember any strike action while your father was working?
Yes, I can remember the 1984 strike. He was still working then. That's quite a vivid memory and caused a lot of bitterness because I think that's when the new union, the UDM, started. That was a branch of the NUM that didn't want to strike. And quite a few workers from Cresswell, because they were underneath the Nottinghamshire unions, decided not to strike and formed the UDM. And although I wasn't living in Cresswell at the time, I can remember people talking about pickets, people coming from far away, and police coming from far away to picket at the pit to stop men going in. And it caused so much trouble between miners and miners' families, which was a pity because you got different families then belonging to different unions who wouldn't even speak to each other then, and they had done. Such as I remember ladies' societies, say the sewing or cooking or whatever they were, would have to have different days than for the UDM cooking ladies and the NUM cooking ladies, things like that, because it caused so much trouble. And I can remember, I'm sure there were Devon and Cornwall police coming up here, and even Kent police coming up to supervise the picketing, taking turns, because it was so big and so rife that they came to all these mining areas to keep control, because it was so bad and so offensive. They felt very, very strongly, and that was, the miners were frightened of losing the work and the pits. They were closing pits then, and they were losing their livelihoods, so they felt so strongly about it. Yes, it was a very difficult time, I believe, then. And they got no pay. If you were on strike, you got no pay, so you were on social security, which caused a lot of trouble as well. Yes, I can remember that. I can also, I can't remember personally the pit disaster at Cresswell, but I'd been told about it by my mum. That caused a lot of trouble as well for families, and I can remember being at school with children who had lost their fathers. I can remember quite a few children, 3 or 4 who would be in my age group, who'd lost their fathers in the pit disaster. That was a very sad time. And my mum can remember a lot of that. And she worried about my dad working in the mines then, of course, in case anything happened like that.
Do you mind telling us what did happen in the pit disaster?
There was a fire, I think a fire broke out, and my mum said she knew something had happened that morning because at the change of shifts, a hooter always used to blast out for maybe 30 seconds, and that meant change of shift, men coming up after a shift and men going down. And she said that morning the hooter didn't sound, and you could hear it all over the village, and you could hear it at the next door village as well, at Clown. And she said that didn't go, and she thought, something's happened. And a fire broke out on a conveyor belt, I think. And 90 men lost their lives in this explosion and, the ensuing fire. So there was a lot of sadness over that, and the effects of that stayed for a long time in the village. It was a sad time. But that was before, I was born then, but before I would know about it. But I can remember people talking about it for a long time after, because it was such a close-knit community. But there was help then. I think there was help from the unions, and money came from all over for the families from abroad as well. Presents and toys for children, soft toys and things like that. I was told about that. And I think after 1984, that's really when the disintegration took place then. They were closing mines all over, and a lot of men lost their jobs, went to other jobs, factories, hospitals, went into engineering and things like that. But that was a sad time as well.
Did they tend to move out of the village of
A
Criswell?
lot did move, yes, they had to for work.
So is it a significantly smaller population there now, would you say?
No, I would say it's bigger community now, but people more from all walks of life now,
Right.
not just mining families. The Pit Village, as they call it, this was the model village that was built to accommodate miners in the 1920s and 30s, I believe, is almost like a council estate now. Anyone can go and live there or rent there, but at the time, in the 40s and 50s, it was just full of colliery workers and people.
So did you find it had quite a strong identity? Because there
Very
were so
much
many-
so, very much so. Yes, now it's more a mixed community, all kinds of workers or non-workers can't find jobs, which again is sad. Yes, losing the livelihoods.
Do you have any particular experiences of when the mines closed and the type of employment in the area changed?
Not really, because shortly after then my dad did finish at the pit, and not many of my friends were miners or married to miners then, but they gradually all lost their jobs. And I would say it spoiled the village as well, because a lot of the money went out of the village and shops closed and things like that. And of course people travelled out of the village as well for work and for shopping, and I do think it's lost its heart a little bit. You couldn't live here now and buy everything in the village. You have to travel out. You're driven to travel out, actually. Yes. The pubs and clubs all closing. That's not helped the community spirit either. So that is a shame.
Do you know of any particular centres where people go to work, say nearby larger towns or cities, or is it more sort of spread across the whole area?
Yeah, I would say it's more spread, yes. But not living here, I wouldn't know much of the details, really.
Okay, and why did your father leave mining?
He retired early. He felt that almost he was persuaded to retire because mines were closing, and they felt they wanted to keep jobs for younger men, and he was getting older, and I'm sure he was about 58 to 60 when he retired, but he had had enough as well, and his lungs were getting bad then, so I think in the end he was glad to retire.
Okay, do you have anything you'd like to ask Louise?
I don't at this point, apart from, is there anything in particular you'd like to add, or something you feel we haven't discussed so far?
Well, just I think everyone felt sad at the loss of the mining industry. I think there's only a few collieries open now. But that you have to accept that if we're not to burn fossil fuels anymore, or not as much, this is the way that it was going to go, and it had to be accepted. But it was very, very sad to see at the time, the disintegration of the communities. And I think particularly Creswell is not the village that it once was. Perhaps some have recovered, but I feel the local ones haven't really. And that's sad. Yes, I think that's all.
Okay, thank you very much, Marylin. We'll
Yes,
finish
thank
the
you.
interview there.